I'm Jerry Jensen. Thanks for being with us. Pipe organs in the world.
My grandfather, Felix, was born in the Black Forest, and his father put him to school in Ludwigsburg, which is the German state organ school there. He spent 7 years at an apprenticeship and graduated when he was only 21 years old as a master organ builder. About that time, the family firm, which is already in existence a bit, had 5 orchestrions, as they are called, so I had to come to the West Coast here. So Granddad was the natural one to come out and install these instruments. And according to true San Francisco history, the very day he arrived, there was a good earthquake, and he got accustomed to San Francisco's rugged life immediately. Granddad then worked with a local organ builder, Mr. Meyer, another German, who was already here. Mr. Meyer passed away, and Granddad, unlike the rest of the people of that period, did not go into the gold country, but decided to build organs in San Francisco. I'm the 4th generation in the family. My grandfather, in the strict German sense, taught me organ building after school. I would come to the shop and clean up around the workmen's benches, and after that he'd have a short lesson for me every day. Well, as time went on, I was fortunate enough that I could repeat the same process with my son Terence, and he being the 5th generation, actually.
In 1977, on the 100th anniversary of their business, the Schoensteins decided to sell it because, as Lawrence put it, his uncles and dads were getting awfully long in years. Jack Bethards, an old and respected friend, is the proud new owner of Schoenstein and Company.
One of the few pipe organ factories anywhere in the United States built specifically for that purpose. And the National Register of Historic Places asked that it be included for that reason. And we have restored this building exactly as it was when it was first built. We have 12 people now, and every one of us tries to take part in all phases of organ building. And that's one way that we keep interested and excited about each project we do. We not only build new instruments, we build over 80 in our career. We also, at the same time, repair and restore antique instruments, and also tune many of the famous organs in the Bay Area. And we tune over 125 instruments regularly, which is quite an undertaking. These vary in size from the gigantic Civic Auditorium organ, one of the largest municipal organs in the world, to small neighborhood church organs. It takes at least a year to make a pipe organ, and perhaps more, depending on the size of the instrument. The reason is that there are thousands of hours of meticulous handwork, and we, of course, have to also acquire many rare materials, especially seasoned and selected lumber, leather, metals such as zinc, tin, and lead. We start by working very closely with the church to determine the design of the organ. And every detail of the instrument is designed on paper and drafted and blueprinted. Then the shop starts making all of the various components. The wind chests, which control the speech of the pipe, the bellows, which control the wind, and all of the other components that go into a completed pipe organ. We make wooden pipes here, and it's an extremely complicated process in that all the lumber must be specially selected, milled and cut, and then very carefully fit together. One of the most critical processes in building a pipe organ is voicing the pipe. that is, giving them their characteristic tone. The pipe must be designed properly, but then, in the hands of a craftsman and an artist, the pipe must be made to speak just exactly as he wishes to have it in the church.
Well, this work could be done in less time in modern factory procedures, but I'm afraid you would lose a lot of the art of the trade. A lot of the person's personality goes into the work and the detail. It never gets boring, organ building. Every facet of it has its challenges, and it's truly an art. You want to make each one better than the last, you know.
I'm Jerry Jensen. Thanks for being with us. Good night.
The forecast.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, Harry, I'll tell you, if you could package today's San Francisco weather, you'd have a long line of buyers.
Yeah.
Coming up, we'll tell you when the actors should be getting back to work. And Vic Lee with the story of a San Francisco family and its time-honored craft. So don't go away.
Felix F. Schoenstein and Company. Well, the name may not be too familiar to you, but to pipe aficionados of the organ, the name is music to their ears. Vic Lee tells us why.
Schoenstein and Company makes what is known as the Rolls-Royce of pipe organs. In its 102-year history, the company has only made 82 of these musical instruments.
This organ is going to the Virgin Islands.
Lawrence, the master builder for the company, is a fourth-generation Schoenstein, a man who meticulously designs and builds his organs by hand.
All the pipes that we work on, there are 61 in the set, have to be harmonious. I oftentimes think of organ pipes as little individual persons. They have their own peculiarities and idiosyncrasies, and it's our job to make them all blend together, same as in a marriage. It's only inert material, wood and metal and that, and we have to bring each individual pipe into life and to create a tone. And this is very satisfying. You leave something behind, I feel, and something beautiful, I hope. A thing of beauty is a joy forever, you know.
It takes an average of 12 months to build one organ, and from 3 to 9 months to install it. The company can only make 3 to 4 organs a year. But when a Schoenstein organ is finally built and installed, all of the parts suddenly spring to life.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
We have an interesting story right now. Pardon me? What were we saying? No, don't let me interrupt you. That's fine. Just have a good time. You're going to enjoy this, all right? Many people, as you know, consider the pipe organ to be perhaps the most difficult instrument to learn how to play. Use both hands, both feet. But what you may not know is that it is considered also to be one of the most difficult instruments to construct, to build, because of its enormous size. In the Bay Area, in fact in San Francisco, there's a small company that's been building these huge pipe organs for over 100 years, and they've been doing it quite successfully. We visited the factory to see just exactly what it takes to build what they call the king of instruments. Take a look here. Fred Schoenstein is part of a proud, distinguished tradition that goes back 103 years in San Francisco. He is a fourth-generation organ builder, the grandson of Felix Schoenstein, who in 1877 started the Schoenstein Organ Company.
My great-grandfather started the company in the Black Forest of Germany. He taught his son, Felix Schoenstein, the art of voicing and pipe making, and he in turn taught my father and his brothers, and they in turn taught me. And when I had my son, I did the same thing, taught him the craft. So we have 5 generations of organ builders.
And what has been passed down from generation to generation is the art of building the king of instruments completely by hand. It is in this small factory, in the very building constructed by the founder's son, that 12 highly skilled craftsmen and women practice a variety of highly technical skills. Skills like woodworking, metalworking, leather and electrical working, the science of acoustics, mathematics, and of course, music. This ancient art is not a dying one. And according to Jack Bethards, who bought the family-owned business 3 years ago, it is an art that is still attracting the young.
There's great interest among younger people in pipe organ building. That's why I feel that it will be a craft that will last forever. However, it's awfully hard to find people with real talent and the stick-to-itiveness to learn all of the painstaking procedures it takes to make a pipe organ.
It's the patience that may be the hardest part of building this mammoth instrument. Patience to stick with the project for over a year. The patience to build an instrument that must last for generations. And according to the master builder himself, when you consider the electronic organ as an alternative, the patience is worth it.
Electronics are a good imitation, but that's all they are. They're not the real thing. And the bigger the electronic organs become to simulate the pipe organ, the more costly, and almost the same cost as a pipe organ. So you might as well have the real thing.
At the end of that year, the great instrument is complete, ready to be disassembled, painstakingly packed, to be shipped, unpacked, and hoisted to its new home. And it is in this final phase that they proudly place the medallion that says this organ is a Schoenstein, something Felix Schoenstein would be very proud of. And then it's back to the drawing board to begin work on the next project, which again will take yet another year to complete. But to Lawrence and his fellow workers, it's well worth it.
There's always improvements in the future, and the Lord knows what's ahead of us, but I have great faith in the future of the pipe organ.
Good story. Good story. Isn't it comforting, though, to see a story in our disposable society? They're still making things that you don't just use and throw away after you're done with them. That organ that we saw being built will probably be around a lot longer than any of us. That's a disgusting thought to be thinking about on Saturday night, isn't it? Forget I said that. We're going to be back in just a second. Don't go away. Take a break.
Five generations of musical excellence. Well, that's the report that we have this morning from Rick Davis, who's in San Francisco on this family of music makers.
A lot of sounds have been coming from this building for a long time.
A little softer on that one.
Inside are men and women who combine science and art with a love of what they do. This is Schoenstein and Company. For 5 generations, the Schoenstein family has been making some of the finest pipe organs in the world. It started with Felix in 1877, and through earthquakes and depressions, good times and bad, it continues today. Lawrence Schoenstein is of the 4th generation.
My grandfather was determined that I was going to be an organ builder, and so every day after school I used to drop by here at the shop and clean up, and he'd have a lesson for me. To make a long story short, my son did very much the same sort of thing. So here we are.
Even those who are not blood relatives are devoted to what they do. Here, there is a larger family. It's a family of fine craftsmen. A few years ago, the Schoensteins decided they just wanted to make organs and not worry about the business aspects of their art. So they sold the company, but they found a man as devoted as they are. This is Jack Bethards.
I have a lot of friends who are running big corporations, and every one of them would trade places with me tomorrow, because how could you have more excitement than creating a musical instrument, and one as complex as a pipe organ?
Lawrence Schoenstein seems to speak for everyone who works here when he says, there is something about taking pipes and wood and making life spring into them. And Schoenstein and Company can breathe a powerful life. This is a new Schoenstein organ at Star of the Sea Catholic Church in San Francisco. The organist is William Vaughn. He helped build this combination of pipe and wood and a lot of modern technology. The sound fills this church. This is the Philadelphian Seventh-day Adventist Church in San Francisco. This is an example of the restoration work of Schoenstein and Company. They didn't build this turn-of-the-century organ, but they love it, and they keep the sound going now. So that's the story of a small group of craftsmen who are keeping a 104-year-old tradition alive, creating things of beauty. And it's all happening here at a small building in San Francisco. For today, Rick Davis, NBC News, San Francisco.
Nice. We've had a whole series of family music makers on here recently, you were saying.
Well, Richard Valeriani introduced us to the French horn family, the name of which I'm sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned it.
Well, what a nice instrument. What a great instrument.
Well, but not only that, but what a great craft and avocation to have, as you make beautiful music and that you make the same thing and you make it well.
And you make it by hand very largely.
That's right, and it'll always be behind. It'll be there.
But didn't you think that organs would have been made in cathedrals and not little factories? Humble little factories.
In pieces.
So.
Yeah.
I'd have to make stone cathedrals, because that's the kind of ear I have when it comes to music.
You play, I mean, kazoo.
Betty Ford tomorrow morning talking about the ERA, which faces a pretty gloomy future at this point.